back League Racing on F125, and this week, everything is going to come down to your qualifying pace. That's right, qualifying result is going to be everything today around Hungary, because it's going to be extremely hard to do any sort of overtaking during the race. And who's to say we can't have a safety car in there to keep things interesting. And before we jump into qualifying, I just want to say thank you so much for all the support in the past few months. The growth has been amazing on all of my platforms, YouTube, Twitch, TikTok, you name it. And I have you to thank for that. But without further ado, let's jump right in. Hungary is a qualifying track, meaning track position will be insanely important, and where you start will probably end up making or breaking your day. And during qualifying, we only got 3 shots to make it count, because there are no restarts in between sessions, and if we want another set of hards for the race, then we're gonna have to only go for 3 runs in quali. And onto the straight, DRS wide open, burn the battery down to 60%, use the outside curve into turn 1 to open up the corner even more, use all of the track available, mash the throttle, and coming up towards turn 2 now, braking somewhere between 150 meters, don't be like me and miss the apex by a mile, a little wiggle on exit as well, we can definitely improve there on our subsequent runs. But for now, we keep our head down, burning to about 30%, at turn 4, you gotta mount the inside curve a little lift, and through this long sweeping right, gotta be aggressive on throttle and run wide on exit, carry all the speed into the chicane, gotta be aggressive over these curves, completely attack them, and use all the available track on exit, running over this gray part on the inside, and keep to the left to open up this right-hander, running over the outside curb again to extend the track, and using the curb on the left side again to open up this right-hander, burning all the battery remaining. That is purple sector 2 for now, and using the outside curve again, really using all of the track available, and through this long left, aggressive on braking, flicking, and then aggressive on the gas again, overtake towards the last corner, use a late apex to really set up the exit, be brave on throttle, the tires are screaming at this point, but up to the line. It is going to be 1 minute 14.656, which is already a better lap than what we did in Creator Series. And that fills me with confidence, because I know there were quite a few mistakes on the lap, and we can do a lot better, definitely. And our second run, we're a 10.5 up going into the chicane, but into the chicane, into the braking zone, the rear gets loose, a slight rear lock, and that loses us all the time we've gained so far. Very unfortunate, because we actually managed to stay pretty close to our previous delta, but into the final corner, Will Gibson gives us dirty air. A little payback for Imola, I suppose. And while we go back into the pits, we're tumbling down the order. People doing 14.2s, and I only have 1 lap left to really make it count. In practice, my personal best was a 14.4, and I knew that it would definitely be possible if we can hook this lap up on the final run. We didn't manage to improve into the first sector, but into the chicane, it's a lot better than last time. A better exit, a 10.5 into this metal sector, and we hit this apex on this right-hander beautifully, and it's almost 2 tenths up. Come on, Kai, you got this. Through this long sweeping right, and again, beautifully done. Purple sector 2 coming into the final sector now. Running a little wide through this right-hander, losing a little bit of time, and going a little too deep into this left-hander. And that lost all of our momentum so far. And into the final corner, again, a little wide on exit. And up to the line, only half a tenth of improvement. For now, that is good enough for P8, but the nerve got the best of me. And as all cars cross the finish line one last time today in qualifying, we have tumbled all the way down to P12. Not ideal, because if you raced on Hungary soil before, you know that it is incredibly difficult to overtake around here. But you know how it is. My race pace is almost always better than my qualifying pace, and I'm curious to see what we can do today. Starting in P12, everybody is on the mediums, no exception, almost. And we get a very good start here, almost jumping the McLaren into turn 1. We're side by side, and we have to take it a little chill here, leaving room on the outside. And on the exit, Will Gibson has a little contact with Michael in the Alpine, and we get a good run on him, but he goes very defensive and then breaks across the track in a diagonal line. A little naughty from Mr. Gibson. But no matter, we started in P12 and already we jumped up to P10. And everybody is scrambling for positions on this opening lap. They want to take advantage of the chaos to maybe make up a position or two. But I was more than happy with just managing, because the risks right now far outweigh the potential gains. And once the train settles into a rhythm, it's just almost impossible to overtake. Unless the guy in front of you makes a blatant mistake, it's going to be almost impossible to overtake. Coming out of these two final corners, the dirty air just makes it so hard to stay close, and the engine temps are only going to skyrocket more and more from here. And again, we ran a slightly lower downforce package today to make our car as much of a rocket ship as possible on the straights. This means as long as the train stays together, it will be almost impossible to overtake us. And I was more than happy to hang back a little bit just to save tires and reduce engine temps. But on lap 3, a safety car comes out. That is very, very early, because the pit window only opens on lap 7 or 8. But a lot of people, including myself, were going to opt to box very early onto the hards, which are the superior race tires here. Diving into the pits, we're all going to go onto the hards, while only a select few, have decided to stay out on the mediums. They're sticking to the original plan of going medium, hard. We opted to go early into the pits, put on the hards to get a pit stop out of the way. But this does mean we will have to take these hards slightly longer than we had originally planned. And as we go racing again, 2 laps later, we've actually jumped 2 people in the box who have double stacked maybe. Don't mind me, we've already gained 4 positions compared to where we first started. And now these first few laps are going to be a little bit difficult, because most people are running close to max downforce while we are running slightly lower. Like I said, this will protect us on the straights, but with the cold hard tires currently, it is going to make staying in that 1 second window slightly harder. And like I said, since we have to take these hards slightly longer than we had planned originally, we are going to be managing these tires a little more, because it's mostly going to come down to when we box and how much of a tire advantage we can get in the final stint of the race. It's all going to come down to that. But onto the main straight, the gap is 9/10, and Michael in the Alpine behind has been looking pretty impatient for a couple of laps now. But into turn 1, he just can't get close enough, even in our slipstream, which goes to show our straight line speed advantage.
Fine staying at like an 8/10 gap. It means my engine's not gonna get too hot.
And we're just gonna keep this up, staying in the train, managing and not pushing our tires too much, so that we can still have some life in them should we need to push on these tires. But into turn 1, we get tapped from behind from Michael, and I'm not happy with that, because he was close to 3/10 behind. And going into turn 2, he's more than 2/10 back, but he goes for a brutal send down the inside, using my car to slow himself down, and I have nowhere to go on the outside if I want to stay on the track. But I have to let him go here, because turn 4 is not possible to make it through side by side.
First he taps me into turn 1, and then he does that.
I was like, sure, you know what? You want that position? Go for it. But that's going to give you a penalty post-race. And at this point, those who stayed out on the mediums are getting eaten alive. They're tumbling down the field. So they have to box here, which is the original pit lap for the strategy. They will come out very far behind, but they're going to be on so much younger hards. It's going to be crazy. And going to turn 4, Michael goes a little wide here, might have bottomed out over the inside curve. That's probably a warning. I wouldn't be surprised if he was close to his first track limit penalty already. He's being very, very aggressive. And at this point, we were already up to P6, and with the way he was pushing, I knew he was probably gonna box soon, because the tires cannot handle the way he was pushing the car.
There's people pitting already from the hards. They're going for a huge undercut,
and there are people already boxing from their first set of hards onto new ones to hopefully get a huge undercut. And through turn 4, Michael goes wide again over the inside curve, a little wiggle.
Oh, Michael, just 3 seconds. Oh, no. Boo-hoo.
And he's not the only one. A lot of people have been getting track limit penalties, and so far, we are sitting on 0 warnings. And on lap 17, the hards are starting to drop off significantly, and I'm outside of the 1 second window coming out of the second sector, and I have to push to get back in there. Maybe the setup is not as optimal as I had thought. And Michael gets a huge moment coming out of this right-hander. His tires are all but done, and he's gonna dive into the box on this lap to go for a huge undercut. 18 laps to go in the race, and on the hards, that is going to be a very long stint. And bigger the undercut, bigger the drop-off at the end of the race. But now, there is a big gap between me and Tom ahead, and I have to close that gap to get back within the DRS, because otherwise I would be losing too much time. But unfortunately, through the chicane, I go a little deep and I run all over the grass on the outside, and that's going to compromise our line through this middle sector. And the gap is 1.5 seconds now. It's not looking good. I'm gonna have to drain all of my battery here into the third sector, but another snap coming out of the right-hander. These tires are all but done, and I have no choice here. I'm gonna have to box and put on a fresh set of hards, because if I stay out, I'm gonna be losing way too much time. However, into the box. Once the light turns green, I let go of the clutch, but the car just didn't move. I don't know if there was somebody behind me. It doesn't look like it was the case, but the car just didn't move forward when I let go of the clutch. Anyways, this means we're gonna come out more than 2 seconds behind the 2 cars in front, and we have a lot of work to do to get back inside that 1 second window. DRS is such a crucial tool in F1 games that you cannot afford to miss out on it. And I'm pushing my heart out, going flat out in this middle sector, using all of the battery available to me, and I'm gonna manage to close up. At the end of the lap, the gap is going to be 2 seconds, which means we've gained half a second, and that is really good. But down this main straight, you'll see in a second how powerful DRS is, and we've lost half a second down the main straight, and that puts all of the time we've gained back into the bin. And now, those who stayed out on the old hards for a few extra laps for the overcut are going to have an insane advantage in the final few laps of the race. There's only 12 laps to go, but 12 laps around Hungary means a lot of tire wear on these hards. And those with fresher tires, sometimes 4, 5, or 6 laps fresher tires, are going to be so much faster in these closing laps. They're currently 5 seconds away, but they are going to catch up very, very fast. And good news for us, we've caught up to the train ahead, and those on very old hards are holding up the guys on new tires, and this has allowed us to get back within that 1 second window. And now we are the ones who have to cut through the traffic. But remember, we didn't box that late compared to the guys who win for the undercut. Maybe a lap or 2 or maybe 3 laps compared to the guys who win early. And this means we don't have that much of a tire advantage compared to the guys ahead. Sure, they might have been pushing a little harder on the laps where they win for the undercut to build a bigger gap, but all I'm trying to say is moving through this traffic is not going to be easy. And we are on a ticking time bomb here, because look at the guys behind us. Tom and Ryan, they have already closed up more than 2 seconds in the space of 2 laps.
Yeah, I have to get past them here.
And just a lap later, the gap is now 1.3 seconds to Tom behind. This is not looking good. Our strategy has not played in our favor here. But ahead, they're going too wide into turn 1, and this has slowed down the train considerably, and the gap now is 1/10 to Tom behind. He is out looking for blood. It's eat or be eaten here, and out of the final corner, the McLaren catches a big whiff of the dirty air from the Red Bull behind. He has a stop on the exit, and this has opened the door for us to go on the attack here. We don't really have a choice, because Tom is also draining his battery, and he moves 3 times on the straight. Very dangerous, if you ask me. And he bumps into us on the exit, and that's allowed Tom to move past. Very aggressive and even dirty defending, if you ask me, because right there he tried to push Tom onto the grass, but with the superior tires, it's no competition, and Tom has managed to move past. People are getting desperate here, and into the chicane here, Ryan is going to do something unexpected. He's going to go for a huge lunge down the inside, and I initially thought I left him a lot of room here, and we make contact on the exit, and this has allowed Will to move past us as well. I probably should have left him a little bit more room on entry, but that move was quite opportunistic, and it's almost always guaranteed to end in tears. But this does mean we will be without DRS onto the main straight, and he's going to be able to move past us pretty easily here. Again, was that a push to pass? on the limit, but fair, I'd say. And look at the track limit penalties ahead of us. And at this point, I'm thinking, if I can just manage to stay with the train, there's so many cars with 3 seconds, 6-second penalties. We are surely going to gain quite a few positions here. But I was running on fumes. Will I be able to stay within that 1 second with the train? It remains to be seen, because I'm barely holding on with old tires and barely any ERS left. But now, a lot of the guys who went early into the pits are starting to feel the effects of tire wear. They're dropping like stones through the field, and I need to stay with Ryan here if I wish to gain track positions from those time penalties. And here, the Red Bull is trying to hold on, but his tires are screaming at this point. And onto the main straight, we're gonna have to stay close here and use all of our battery to try to stay with them. Now the Red Bull is already flashing onto the main straight, and I still have a lot left. We're gonna be closing in with a lot of overspeed thanks to our low downforce package, but I can move past Ryan here, so I have to back out. A little contact into the braking zone, leaving some room on the outside, but with the superior traction, it's just no competition. And here, I have to stay behind Ryan again. I wasn't alongside enough to make a move, and at this point, I don't want to make a move either, because I don't want to waste unnecessary time battling. I have to stay with him, try to gain as much race time as possible, and try to recharge my battery as much as possible, because Will Gibson in front, even though he's on younger tires, he is with a 6-second penalty, and Ryan has a huge slide coming out of that right-hander. He's pushing to the absolute limit right now, and it's important for us to stay within that 1 second window. Every lap where we can hang on will decrease the tire advantage that he has over us.
Hopefully Spezzy is gonna protect us from the other Red Bull.
And we barely managed to hold on. Just 2 laps later, we've closed in on the back of the train again.
He's on fresh hards.
And some of these guys in front are on very, very old tires. And Ryan is struggling to get past at this point. However, there is a slight problem behind. There's a Red Bull with close to 10 lap fresher tires behind us. Cryzix has boxed on lap 25, whereas we boxed on lap 18. That's 7 laps fresher tires. And here they're fighting really, really hard. And I tried to stick it down the inside, but these rubber don't have enough rotation in them anymore. And I have to defend from the Red Bull behind as well. Only 1 lap to go. Can we hold on? And if you look at the minimap, Will Gibson is driving away in clean air. But we go wide here through the sweeping right and little contact behind. Fortunately, we hold on to the position here and into the chicane, going slightly defensive, maybe slower in so that we can maximize exit speed. We're fighting for position here. We have to keep the Red Bull behind no matter what. We also have to stay within that 6-second window to Will Gibson. But through this right-hander, something unexpected happens. The McLaren has had a puncture. One of the guys who boxed very, very early for the undercut has suffered a puncture on the penultimate lap of the race. That's the thing when you go early like that for the undercut. Bigger the undercut, bigger the drop off at the end of the race. And if you don't have the pace to make it work, you're just dead meat in the final laps of the race. And now onto the final straight. We're gonna have to stay with Ryan here. Luckily for us, we have plenty of battery to defend with, and with our lower wings, the Red Bull cannot make a move into turn 1, but we can, moving up to P9 on the final lap of the race. And now we're gonna stay with Ryan while Casper is gonna act as a shield.
Come on, Ryan, push.
And I'm asking Ryan to push so that we can stay within that 6-second window to Will Gibson. Hopefully we can, but right now the gap is ever so increasing, and it's not looking likely more and more. But we have to hope. We have to stay within that 3-second window to Ryan, and we have to stay within that 6-second window to Will Gibson as well. And we can only hope at this point. As we come around the final 2 corners of the track, one final time today, across the finish line. Where are we gonna finish? It is P9 on track, but after all on-track penalties applied, P6? It is going to be P6.
Oh, I can't believe that.
I think we might have gone a little too low on the wings in the race because our pace in clean air was a little lacking.
You know, this goes to show, guys, if you just stay clean, good things will come to you.
And because we managed to stay clean that race, we've moved from P12 to P6. Not bad if you ask me, especially around a track like Hungary. not bad, I must say. Really not bad. By staying calm in the race and by staying clean on track limit warnings, we managed to salvage that race pretty well. Though there were no additional penalties handed out after the race, we still went from P12 to P6, around Hungary no less, which is pretty impressive in itself. Thanks for watching once again. Stay tuned for more league racing content and for the grand finale of Creator Series Season X this upcoming Saturday. This is Formula Kai signing off, and I'll see you very soon. Bye bye.